Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our next live stream. I'll be your producer for this session. Before we start, I do have some quick housekeeping. Please take a moment to read our code of conduct. We seek to provide a respectful environment for both our audience and presenters. While we absolutely encourage engagement in the chat, we ask that you please be mindful of your commentary, remain professional, and on topic. Keep an eye on that chat. We'll be dropping helpful links and checking for questions for our presenters to answer live. Our session is being recorded. It will be available to view on demand right here on the Reactor channel. With that, I'd love to turn it over to our speakers for today. Thank you for joining.
Hello. Hi, Gaston. How are you? How are you doing?
Hey, Javier. Good morning, afternoon, and night for some of our folks joining us today.
Yeah. It's nice to be here again today, just presenting our session, the integration blueprint, choosing the right path in Microsoft Fabric. So it's a pleasure for both of us to be here today presenting. And just for everyone to be aware of, this is a session that we have the pleasure with Gaston to present live on stage during the FabCon in Vienna last year. And we had a great feedback about it because basically what we're going to be covering today is a journey within Fabric from the ingestion of the data, the storage, the processing, the creation of the semantic model, and the Power BI with some Copilot at the top of it. So we're going to cover end-to-end the Fabric solution, right? This is why we decide to stay here today presenting this to all of you. So Gaston, would you like to start?
Yeah, let's go for it. And this is excited, all the time, and because all the different roles and personas coming together into the Fabric stream is great. Sometimes it's overwhelming, so we are going to be trying to do our best to explain how all these, different roles and personas coming to build an end-to-end solution in Microsoft Fabric. So let's go for it, Javier.
All right, let's start it. So a little bit about myself. My name is Javier Villegas. I am from Argentina. I work at Mediterranean Shipping Company, and I've been involved with the Microsoft Data Platform and SQL Server for the last 30 years. I'm Microsoft MVP and also Microsoft Certified Trainer. I'm at the same time one of the organizers of our local community, SQL Argentina, and where we have our events, meetups, etc. So feel free to join us. We do speak Spanish, but if you feel comfortable with the Spanish, don't hesitate to join us. You're going to have a good time with us. In the left side of the screen, you have my contact information, and at the top, you will see a QR code that will land you directly into my LinkedIn account. In case you want to get in touch with me, or if you have any question related to this presentation. So now you, Gaston.
Sounds good, Javier. Well, my name is Gaston Cruz. I'm Senior Director here in Slalom. I moved from Uruguay, South America, 7 years back with my family to the Seattle city, and I am in the Senior Director role in Slalom Consulting Firm. I'm running a global Microsoft enterprise leadership here. I'm as Javier. I met Javier actually from community engagements a long time ago. We both became Microsoft MVPs in the data platform space almost 10 years back right now. And I'm also Microsoft MVP in the AI space. Also as Javier, Microsoft Certified Trainer. I really love community engagements. I really love to launch new user groups. I've been supporting launching new user groups in different countries in South America. I love that journey. Actually, a few weeks back, I was in New York to launch the very first Fabric user group back there in New York. We had a really amazing kickoff session with Kim Manis and Marco Russo. That is kind of the message, for the audience that's showing us today live or on demand. Join a user group as soon as possible. It's amazing, the networking, the relationships, building that sense of community, sharing your knowledge, sharing your experience as well in the platform. You're going to see a lot of people coming over and trying to share, not only asking questions, share what you know so far, how you're dealing with projects today. So that's amazing. For myself, I've been technical speaker in different conferences, Build, Ignite, FabCon, Past Summit, and so on. And as Javier in the left side of the screen, you can see my social media, so don't hesitate to connect with me on the LinkedIn, Twitter, or any choice of yours. And I'm running as well a PowerMates YouTube channel. Feel free to go there, look for PowerMates, go to subscribe and like and share our videos with Alex, another MVP from Business Apps. We are trying to come up with different ideas on how to link the data platform space, the AI space, and of course the Power Platform space. So that being said, let's go for it. This is a really amazing session, and we are trying to do our best to go through end-to-end into this spectrum.
All right, so we have great moderators in the YouTube chat, Johan and Doher. They will be there for you for answer all your questions regarding to this presentation. Feel free to ask everything you want. They are fully capable of answering the question. This is for the live audience only, so when you see the recording, this opportunity is not going to be available, but you will see all the chat over there. So participate in the chat. I definitely would like to know from where we have people joining us today, Gaston. Would you?
Yeah, that's going to be amazing. I saw people joining from Norway, from London, from different parts of the world. So it is incredible the way everybody's embracing this new platform.
Yeah, and for that, stay tuned because we have a new database event coming very, very, very soon. So get in touch with us. Follow this link, aka.ms/database, or scan this QR code. So with that, you're going to get all the news, all the updates related to these monthly events that we are doing. So thank you, Microsoft, again, for giving us the possibility to present today. So as you may know, we need a lot of feedback, right? So if you are new to Fabric, or if you know someone who is, we would like you to join us in aka.ms/new to Fabric, right? This is the best place for you to start getting involved, right? Or if you are a Fabric or a Power BI user and you want to, and we definitely want to hear from you. So aka.mx Fabric user panel /live is the place for you to, participate in, where you can engage with Microsoft engineers, the people who actually create the products, participate in research studies, and also influence on the product roadmap. So that's going to be, a unique opportunity for everybody to participate and be part of this Fabric journey. So let's start. As you may know, we have Microsoft Fabric as general available since more than 2 years, right? Fabric is this end-to-end SaaS platform, right, that will allow us to do any kind of data-related project, initially analytics project, but now every kind of data project, right, using a SaaS experience. What is SaaS? Software as a service. So we don't need to install any component in our computers, right? I remember many years ago when we had to do a data analytics project end to end, it requires several months in order to start, buying the hardware, installing the network, the servers, the software, configuring, and just starting, just to roll up, just to do a proof of concept used to take a lot of time. Now with Microsoft Fabric, we only need few minutes, right, to connect to the Fabric portal, create connect. And by the way, for everybody to be aware of, if you want to start playing around with Fabric, you can do it for free. Yes, for free. So you have a 60-day trial period in where you can join, create your project. You will be able to do all the things that we will be showing to you today in the live demo for free, right? So you can start your project, you can validate your data sources, create your data warehouse, create your data engineer project and your Power BI report, right, for free, right? And then when you are ready, right, you can jump into a paid capacity. But in order for you to start, you can do it for free, right? So we were together with Gaston back in Ignite 2024, right? No, 2023, right? Now I don't remember. It was 2023 or 2024.
Yeah, that was 2023.
2023, right? Yes, 2023. And we were there, and also Arun jumped into the stage. Arun is the CVP for Azure Data, and he put this phrase on the screen, and we love it right away. So we try to use it as much as we can. Data is the fuel that powers AI, right? So we, as a data specialist, right, as a data engineer, data analyst, we are the one that have to prepare the data in order to serve, this new generation of AI, right? We have to create the foundational, right? So because that if we ingest garbage into AI, the result is going to be the same, right? So definitely we have a big responsibility, and we have Microsoft Fabric as this tool to help us to build this foundation. So if we move forward, you probably have seen this picture multiple times, but I like it as well because, easily we can see all the different things that we can do within Fabric. We can work with Data Factory pipeline to do ingestion of the data. We can work with real-time intelligence on real-time events. We now have databases in Fabric. We can create SQL databases in Fabric as well as Cosmos and few others. Also for the analytical part and the data engineering and machine learning project as well, right? And of course, traditional data warehouse solution. And at the top of it, we can put, the Power BI dashboard and reports that we've been using for more than 10 years now. As everything what we are seeing now today in the Microsoft space, we have Copilot, right? And Fabric is not the exception, right? In all the way through our data analytics project, we're going to be able to leverage Copilot, right, to help us in multiple areas. Like, for example, if we want to develop a notebook using Python, PySpark, R, Scala, right, we can have this side chart with Copilot and interact using natural language, right, to get the code and help us to write those notebooks. Same as we are working with a semantic model and we need to create a DAX query, right? In Power BI, it's going to help us to create visualizations, right? And eventually we need to get insight from our data, right? We only need to chat and we're going to get those insights right away. So Copilot, we're going to see it later on as well. The important part of Fabric is the storage, which is called OneLake, right? I like to do this analogy with Microsoft Office, Microsoft 365, in where we have multiple separate applications like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and we have OneDrive, right, in where we store the documents, and then we can share it between the application and also with other people, right? Well, in the Microsoft Fabric world, this is exactly the same. We have this multiple data related project that we can build within Fabric, right? And the common storage layer is OneLake, in where we can save and share our data set with others, right? The interesting part of OneLake is that it's based on standards, Delta Parquet, right? So it's super easy to integrate with other solutions if we have to, right? So we move forward to this other slide, which is also expanding a little bit the view of what we saw now, but we are entering into the data ingestion part. And with that, we're going to start warming up to what we're going to see next in the demo, right? We have the black rectangle in the middle that we have Microsoft Fabric with all the different workloads, the serverless computing where we can switch between Spark if we are doing data engineering, T-SQL if we are working with a data warehouse, KQL if we are using real-time intelligence, or analysis services if we are working with a semantic model. And with, of course, OneLake as the storage layer as we mentioned before. But then, we see something outside this rectangle, right? Which is some of the ways that we have, and we will see later, how to ingest data into OneLake, into Fabric, right? One of these ways is using mirroring, right? Microsoft is investing a lot on mirroring. And what is mirroring? Basically, we have the possibility to ingest into Fabric in near real-time operational data coming from Azure SQL, SQL Server, Snowflake, Oracle, Azure Cosmos DB, and many more to come. What does it mean? If we have an operational application sitting at the top of, for example, Azure SQL Managed Instance, right, in where we do the stock control of our company. So, the application is constantly inserting, updating, and deleting rows, right? Those rows will stream directly into OneLake in near real time. So if we insert new data, that data will be available in OneLake within the next few seconds, few minutes, right? And why this is quite important? Because we can leverage data analytics at the top of real-time data. This is super, super interesting because, we don't need to do an ETL in this case. Of course, we have the way to do ETLs with Data Factory and the pipeline, but with this method, with mirroring, right, we don't need to do the ETL and run it every hour or every 6 hours, right? The operational data will be flowing directly into OneLake, right? Super, super cool. We will see it in action, by the way. Then at the bottom of the screen, you see the multi-cloud shortcut. What are these shortcuts? Well, basically, if we have another data solution sitting in another cloud provider, like, for example, Google or Amazon, and the outcome, the results are files sitting on, for example, an Amazon S3 bucket, we can directly connect from Fabric to Amazon S3, see the files, and use it within our Fabric project, right? Without duplicating, without copying the data from the external source into Fabric. This is super cool because the only thing that we do is just reference the data that is sitting in this external solution, right? We can do it with Google, Amazon, Dataverse, Azure Storage Account, and there are many more to come, right? So these are two of the ways that we have to ingest data. So now, before we jump into the demo, we would like to share with you how is going to be the architecture of the project that we will be doing today, right? So we will cover the data ingestion, the transformation of the data, and the analytics at the top of it, right? So we have Microsoft Fabric, of course, and we have, our workspace with OneLake, and we will start by creating an empty lakehouse. Then outside this rectangle, we're going to ingest data from first an Amazon S3 bucket. We're going to get the file sellers.csv using a multi-cloud shortcut. After that, we're going to create a pipeline connecting to an Azure SQL DB, right? There is a table called payments over there, and we will ingest it into our lakehouse using the pipeline. Then we will have some files locally on our virtual machine on the C drive, right? And we need to upload the files into Fabric using, OneLake Explorer. We're going to upload the file geolocation.csv. Then we're going to create a shortcut to an Azure storage account, and we will upload the customer.csv file. Then we will go to a SQL Server 2025 that is up and running. We will establish data mirroring, right? And we will mirror two tables, orders and orders items, to the database mirror part in OneLake. And then we will make sure that this data is available in our main lakehouse. After that, Gaston will take over and will show us how to do the data cleaning, the duplication, the cleansing of the data using notebooks and Dataflows Gen2 to create basically a semantic model at the top of all the data that we ingest. And to finalize, we're going to create a Power BI report at the top of the data. So we will start with an empty workspace, and we will show you end-to-end from this ingestion, storage, processing, and reporting of the data. What do you think, Gaston?
This is overall, kind of a design that the main goal for all of us is showed the art of possible. You're going to find that there's multiple options to address the same scenario, same use case. So based on your business needs, you're going to be picking up, hey, I might need, or moving towards a shortcut versus a pipeline versus, doing a mirroring. So the thing here is showing the art of possible and then helping our audience to understand why we are picking one versus the other. And sometimes it's a matter of orchestrate some of them together. We are going to be showing a little bit of the pipeline to ingest payment data, but at the same time, you can follow that path of, hey, start with a pipeline in Data Factory, but calling a notebook from that pipeline or calling a Dataflows Gen2 from that pipeline and orchestrate the end-to-end of this solution. So we are going to be showing exactly step by step on this process and in this journey, so our audience can understand why we are picking one versus the other and how we can integrate the different workloads coming together as a one integration solution.
All right, let's jump into the demo. We have this empty workspace that, we should start with new item. And what we will do first is create our lakehouse, right? It's as simple as creating, hit create and specify the lakehouse name. In this case, Fabcom Vienna, right? After creating the lakehouse, you will see that the interface is adjusting for us to work on a lakehouse, right? We, always on the same screen. We haven't done anything. I just create the lakehouse. As you know, on a lakehouse, we can store relational data and, files, right? So we will start creating this shortcut, right? That we're going to point to our Amazon S3. We can create a brand new connection string specifying the URL, the access key, the secret, etc. I will be using here an existing one in where I have files already deployed in Amazon S3. Right? We can enable cache eventually to minimize the data flow from one side to the other if we have to. Then we select the folder, in this case Fabcom. This is still residing in Amazon S3, right? Then, eventually we can transform this data. We can modify columns, we can change data types, etc. And when we are ready to go, we just go create this shortcut. As you can see under the file section, now we see the folder, right? That if we hit on it, we will see all the files that are available. But remember, those files are not local. They are still on Amazon S3. So then we can do load to table. We can, specify the table name. Our naming convention is TBL underscore product in this case, right? And what's happening here, we are converting this CSV file that is sitting in Amazon S3 as a table within our lakehouse, right? So we can see the content of the CSV file, but we can also see it as a file. So now we will do the same for the seller's CSV, right? We hit new table, we specify the table name, we specify that we have column headers and the separator is a comma, right? After that, we will see the seller's CSV file as a table in our lakehouse, right? So if we keep refreshing this, we see both tables now. Those are tables now sitting in our lakehouse, right? So as soon as we are done with the Amazon S3, what we're going to do next is go to a new item again, and we will type pipeline. In pipeline, we're going to connect to Azure SQL DB, right? And import one table that we have sitting in our operational area. We just specified the pipeline name. And as you can see, again, the interface is adjusting, right, to start working on our ETL. We're going to use the copy data assistant, and on every single ETL process, we're going to choose the data source. We can do the transformation and choose the destination. So in this case, we're going to select the source and we're going to choose Azure SQL Database. What we need to do here is specify the server name, the database, and the credential. I'm going to my management studio. I'm, copying the server name of my Azure SQL DB, right? So I specify the name over there. I will do the same for the database, right? In this case, my database name is my demo DB. So I just go grab it from there and will, use it in my connection string for my pipeline, all right? So we're there, connection string or server name, then I have it pre-recorded, so I don't have to specify again the credential. But if you don't have it, you have to specify how you will be connected. What's going to happen next, we're going to have the list of all the tables, and eventually we can write a T-SQL query combining multiple tables with joins, etc., and ship or ETL the output of that query into our destination. In this case, as we see here, all the list of operational tables in our database, I will choose only dbo.payment. What we're going to see is a quick preview of the data. We want to hit next, right? We're going to choose the destination, which is the layout that we created. We're going to land it into a new table in where we're going to specify the table name using our naming convention, TBL underscore payment. Eventually, we can change column names, data types, enable partition, etc. And when it's ready, we save it and execute it. We are saving the pipeline, right, and executing. What's going to happen next? It's going to enter into our queue system, and then it will run the pipeline, right? And if it succeeds, we're going to see the payment information into our lakehouse, right? This is going to take a few seconds. Now it's in queue. After that, it will be in progress, and hopefully when it finishes, it's going to be succeed. All right, so it's going to take a few more seconds. Succeed. So now, we go back to our lakehouse, and if we refresh it, we're going to see that now we have an additional table. This is the one that we grabbed from the ETL. So now we're going to upload some files that I have locally on my computer. All right, so I go there, I browse my computer, I go to the C drive, the temp folder. Right? I have few CSV and other files. So I'm going to pick here the geolocation.csv. And what I'm doing is just uploading the file from my computer into the Lakehouse, right? We go there and we're going to do the same. Load to table, new table, specify the table name, the separator. If eventually it's not a comma, we can choose any separator. We hit load, and now the geolocation information on this table is available in our Lakehouse. Now we're going to create another shortcut, and we will select the Azure Blob Storage, right? So same as before, we have to choose an existing connection or create a new one. And what we have to do is specify the URL, the credentials, etc. I have it pre-recorded here, so I'm just choosing it, and I see the list of all my containers available in the Azure Blob Storage. I will choose data 002, we'll hit next, and we will see the data that is sitting in there. From there, we're going to pick customer.csv. Right? Eventually, we can do some transformation. We are not in this case. And now we have it under the file sections, the data 002 subfolder, and we see customer CSV that's still sitting on the Azure Storage account. And as we did before, we're going to load it into a new table, tbl_customer with the header, with the separator. We hit load. And now in a few seconds, we see the content of this file as a table within our Lakehouse. All right. Let's wait a few seconds till it finishes loading. And we see now tbl_customers on it. All right. So what we're going to do next is to explore the data that we have. So now you see it as a table format. We're going to do new item, right? We're going to create a mirror database. So we type mirror, right? We will select mirror for SQL Server. We choose there, and then the process will be quite similar. We choose our source, our SQL Server. We have to specify server name and database. In this case, since my SQL Server is sitting on-premise, I have to use a connection with an on-premise data gateway that I have pre-created. Then I specify the server name, the database name. In this case, I will specify the credential as well, right? So I will be using, in this case, SQL authentication with the username Javier and the password, right? When we're done, we just hit connect. And what we're doing is connecting to our SQL Server 2025 on-premise, right? What we will see next is basically all the list of databases under our database, and we can select, 1, 2, up to 1,000, right? And we select those tables, and then we will establish the mirroring connection to see that data in near real time in OneLake. Not as we did before, that we did the, ETL and the importing, right? We're going to have the data live. So we're going to import orders and orders items. We are creating now within OneLake the mirror database in where we're going to have this data landing right away. And then Fabric will set up the mirroring, provisioning the mirror database, creating the endpoint, and taking the initial snapshot and starting the replication. So every time that the operational side inserts new data into our tables, we're going to see them here, right? So we have this dashboard in where we can hit refresh and see that now we have the tables empty in our Lakehouse, right? They are there, the status is running, so soon we're going to start seeing data flowing into it, right? We have the number of rows that are replicated. In this case, the orders table is already complete, and now we have to wait for the orders items to land. And now we have all the data here for us, all right? So if we jump back to our Lakehouse, now we have to go to the tables section and create a shortcut to the mirror database, right? So we select new shortcut. We choose our mirror database that we just create. This is where the data from SQL 2025 is landing, is replicating in near real time, right? So we choose ours, right? And we hit next. We're going to see the tables. Of course, we have to see orders and orders items, right? So we select both of them. We hit next, and we're going to see those tables now in our layout. We're going to delete the schema name, DBO, right? And then what we're going to do is going to delete the name. So we use our naming convention. So TBL underscore orders items and TBL underscore order. This is how we're going to see our tables in the layout, right? And again, if we have an application working and inserting new data on our SQL Server side, without us doing anything, we will see the data in our lakehouse and we can do analytic at the top of it, right? So we refresh here, we see now the list of all our tables that we have available, right? Remember that initial slide that I presented before with all the ones that we were ingesting. Now we have all of them, right? So now here I'm switching to a SQL endpoint because I feel more comfortable writing T-SQL code. So we have all our tables in our lakehouse, and then I can start, playing around with my data. I will do a select start from one of my tables, right? And we will see the data right away. So we execute the query, we see the data directly from there. Then, we're going to do a select count just to make sure that the amount of data matches with what we saw initially on the SQL Server side, right? Just to make sure that we have exactly what we want. And, from this point onward, we can start working with notebooks and with Dataflows Gen2 to start doing the cleaning. So what do you think, Gaston? Is it time for you to start working at the top of all this data that we just ingested into our Fabric workspace?
Yeah, sounds good, Javier. And this is great in terms of looking at all the tables that you just ingest with different methods, with different items. From shortcuts to pipelines through all the OneLake Explorer. Remember that I love the analogy from Nets in terms of OneLake is just the OneDrive for data. And that exactly was what Javier was trying to show up there. He brings just files that he has in the C drive, connect to OneLake, and just drop the files right away into our Fabric environment. And from there, he's picking up, and you can see all the tables happening right now in the Lakehouse. I'm showing my screen right now that you can see all the table, customers, geolocation, organizing, all of them, they're coming from different sources. And one of the key elements here is because Javier was, showing that one that is the shortcut to the Amazon. Think about the openness in terms of the platform itself. You don't need to be only in one single cloud provider. You can bring data from Amazon, from BigQuery, from different vendors, different hyperscalers, and coming all together into the OneLake framework. And that means that you can connect with multiple sources at the same time. So what we are showing here is, first of all, the Lakehouse. We have all the tables coming to our Lakehouse. Remember that also Javier was sharing kind of the shortcut, and you're going to see a little bit small icon in top of each of the table. That small icon is exactly the reference of the shortcut. And that reference for the shortcut is really important because you are not actually moving the data. You are reference the data into that stream. So that means that you are relying on that connection of the data source, but without the explicitly the data movement itself. Then it's time to, hey, what is going to look like for me to start transforming, cleansing the data, changing the columns, add new columns. And there's again, multiple options to make that happen. You can bring your pipeline, your data factory, create your pipeline, orchestrate the way you're going to be calling different items. You can call from the pipeline perspective, because in this case, Javier was showing, hey, I'm going to ingest data using the pipeline, but at the same time, you can go and say, hey, Gaston was working with a whole data engineer team, doing the mashup of the data, bringing different notebooks and orchestrate those notebooks. So you can go from the pipeline and the data factory stream and calling the notebooks right away, leveraging the pipeline. And at the same time, one of the biggest questions that I got time to time is, hey, Gaston, but what about Dataflows Gen2? Because I love Power BI. I love to do this in Power BI. So what is going to look like for me to leverage Dataflows? Of course, you can go and create your pipeline and call it notebooks from one perspective, but then if you are working when what I call the Power BI champions in your organizations, and they would love to keep enhancing the data, they can keep adding those buckets from a data flow perspective. So let's switch a little bit on my screen here and see exactly what I mean with that one. You know, this is a notebook experience. This is an overall notebook. This notebook is attached to the Lakehouse that Javier was discussing before, and I can go and check a little bit what this notebook is doing. We are leveraging the connection to a couple of tables, customers, geolocation. We are bringing a whole standardization, normalizing ZIPs code between customers and geolocations. We are doing some data profiling here in the notebook itself. So we are transforming the data within the tables, in this case, couple of tables from the Lakehouse, and we are writing back that data into the notebook. We are adding some surrogate keys. We are adding some quality flags. We are doing some geohash UEF special bucketing. We are doing several curation of the data across the notebooks. And then finally, at the end here, we are saving that back again as delta tables. We are creating a dim zip geolocation here, dim customer table, and we are overriding some of the tables in the Lakehouse, getting back after we are doing all the transformation. So the notebook is here not only to connect to the Lakehouse, is doing the cleansing, the transformation of the data, and then writing back to the Lakehouse that Javier was showing us before. But then the question is, and I would love to bring one of the topics, because you're going to see this icon in the top right all the time. You're going to see, and Javier doubled down on that one for several times here, but every single workload across the Fabric family has that icon. That means that the icon is doing different things based on the workload. Javier was showing how to connect to the Lakehouse, checking the SQL endpoints and running some SQL commands against the Lakehouse. You can leverage Copilot to understand how to write some of the commands. I can go here, and always Javier is asking me, hey, Gaston, how confident you are with Python? And I'm double down on this one. I use this button all the time, because that allowed me to go and say, hey, I used to do this with stored procedures and T-SQL all the time back in the days. How I can do exactly the same leveraging PySpark or Python script. So that's where I use this Copilot option here and start understanding what it's going to look like for me to start transforming and shaping the data in the right way, leveraging notebooks, connecting to the Lakehouse. So that's something amazing today for a lot of DBAs jumping into the Fabric stream, trying to do more data engineer workflows, shaping the data and mashing up the data in the right way. They can use the Copilot option here in the notebooks to understand how to write those Python scripts. If I switch again, and I'm switching back here to another Fabric item, let's say that after we land the data between bronze, silver, gold layer, and after the gold layer and before I'm jumping into a semantic model, I would love to bring some additional customization in top of my data. So why I should be doing this? Because our business users First of all, they understand pretty well our line of business. They understand how they would love to see the structure of the data at the end of the day. So that being said, after we land the data back in the lakehouse, we might need to add some additional layer of transformation. And that is exactly what I'm doing here. I'm bringing a couple of queries. I am connecting, you can see in the right of my screen, I'm connecting to the lakehouse, and then I can go step by step in the process. And remember that the great things around Dataflows Gen2 is that in the top of my screen, you're going to see all these buckets, meaning that you can add new columns. You can add columns from examples. You can add columns with AI. You can extract data from any columns. You can do a ranking columns. You can transform the data shaping in pivot columns and pivot columns. And this is all with a graphic design interface. But of course, if you're familiar with this code that is running behind the scenes, remember that the code is Power Query. If you are familiar with Power Query, you can go to any of these queries, right-click here. You can explain, of course, with Copilot. Explain means that if you have 20, 25 different transformation, Copilot is going to be explaining that for you, because sometimes we have the heritage, of code. Let's say that Javier is sending me Dataflows Gen2, and I would love to reuse some of the code. I can go and say, hey, I would love to explain this query. But at the same time, I was looking at this option, Advanced Editor, back here, and you can see all the Power Query. So if you are familiar with Power Query, you can go here and create your own custom functions, add any columns, remove any columns, rename, change data types. Instead of using the graphic interface, you can use, of course, the code. So you have both worlds, the world of low-code transformation or the world of, pro-code transformation, leveraging directly Power Query in top of this data. And of course, if I start navigating the right of my screen, you can see that there's a whole navigation. I am picking one of the tables. Then this table is the products table that Javier was referenced before in the Lakehouse. I'm changing some of the data types, and at the same time, here I'm adding some columns. I'm adding customized columns to my flow, adding a volume column, adding a dimension column. I am adding a size column, and of course, one of the great things around the Dataflows Gen2 is that I can save and write back this data to my lakehouse. So you can add a destination over here, and you can see that I can save my Dataflows transformations to the same lakehouse or a warehouse or a SQL database or even SharePoint. So after you mash up all the data leveraging Dataflows Gen2, you're going to be able to get that connection to your source, doing transformation, doing the cleansings, doing data types, adding columns, and then finally saving back to any of these destinations. This is really powerful from a perspective of a business user. And remember that it's not one versus the other, because some of the question is, hey, should I use pipeline? Should I use notebooks? Should I use data flows? You can use all of them. You can orchestrate the way you are managing your data and transforming your data. Maybe you are starting the process with ingestion of the data with pipelines. Then you are calling several notebooks for some of the transformations between your medallion architecture, between bronze, more layer. But at the end of the day, you're relying maybe on the Power BI champions to go and say, hey, I would love to create a Dataflows Gen2, and that Dataflows Gen2 could be called from the pipeline and continue that journey of keep transforming the data until you feel that the data is in the right structure to go. That means that at the end of the day, from the lakehouse, when you end up that journey of transformations with notebooks, with data flows, with all these items, you have this option in the top of your screen. And you can create a new semantic model right away. You can click all the tables and say, hey, I would love to bring all these tables. You are going to naming the semantic model here. After you create this semantic model, what it's going to look like is something like this, where you bring all the tables together. I got my payments, the products, and I don't care what is the data source. I don't care if is Lakehouse or the Lakehouse is ingesting from mirroring or from shortcuts or from Amazon or from, you can see that everything is coming together in one single place. And that means that you have all the tables coming, of course. Again, the analogy from Javier, garbage in, garbage out. Remember that you need to spend quite some time here, to build the relationships, to define the right primary key, the right foreign key, getting all the relationships between all the different tables. And at the same time, of course, next step, go into your business Power BI champions and start addressing what we call the DAX measures. DAX measures that understand your business, that allow you to create calculation groups, to do time intelligence, and so on. So you start working on your semantic model, enhancing that semantic model with all those measures. And at the end of the day, after you create these semantic models, you can go and say, hey, now I am ready to go. But before that, remember again, if you are not familiar with DAX or something around that, it's a new learning experience, it's a new programming language, again, you can have the assistant of Copilot to start writing your first DAX measure. So you can go and rely, and that's why I showed before the Copilot experience in notebooks, what you can do from that perspective, what you can do from a Power Query perspective, and how to leverage Copilot in Dataflows. And then here, again, if you are creating a whole new measure, you can go and say, hey, I would love to get Copilot to assist me with the measures and how I can create measures in top of my semantic model. At the end of the day, after you get everything ready and set up in the semantic model, the next step, of course, is going to go with Power BI. Power BI is not going anywhere in the Fabric family. It's one of the biggest members of the family. So after you end up the whole process of ingesting, transformation, load data, leveraging notebooks, and data flows, create your semantic models, create your measures. If you're ready to go, you can go to Power BI. And of course, if I edit the option here, you're going to see in the edit option again, Copilot is part of this family again. So in the Copilot experience, building Power BI reports, you can create a new report page or saying to Copilot, hey, give me some suggestion on creating a new report page here, or answer any question about my data. And it is not enough to say that Copilot is everywhere, but Copilot is launching by the workload specifically. So if you are leveraging Copilot in notebooks, is one experience and helping me out to write Python scripting. If I am leveraging Copilot in the data flows experience, it's going to be helping me to transform data from a Power Query perspective or creating new queries against my own data. If I'm leveraging Copilot here in the Power BI report creation, it's going to help me out to create new pages from scratch. I can go and say, hey, I want to create a new report page here, and it's going to start looking. And again, this is not magic. It's going to be doing the best he can to understand what is going on in my semantic model behind the scenes. So it's going to propose all kind of, examples of filters, slicers, key metrics, what I can do, and what is the art of possible to create that new page in my Power BI report. And again, this is everything that is coming automatically with that in mind. And after I create this one, I can, of course, start, mashing up the data, changing the slicing, see and interact with Power BI right away from here. So hopefully this lands to our audience today to understand that Fabric is a huge family, different workloads coming together. You can ingest data from multiple platforms, not only Microsoft platform. You can leverage Fabric to start, linking all together, the notebooks, the pipelines, the data flows. What is the art of possible around that? And ending up, of course, with our semantic model, leverage Copilot to understand how to create measures from a semantic model's perspective, but at the same time, leveraging Power BI to make this deal. Power BI is going to be there to help you out to create, this kind of impactful report. And at the end of the day, you can go to the Copilot experience in the M365 family, and you're going to start, leveraging natural language against your data. We are going to be trying to add that with Javier in a next session or future session where you can start building your agents that can interact with all the data that we have right now in this Fabric tenant space. What do you think, Javier?
It's great, Gaston. So we are passing the message that to the audience that they should stay tuned for the second part of this presentation. But super powerful. We have covered in near 1 hour everything. From end to end. We made it. One more time, it's hard to put all these many content into packed into these demos and see it in action. But I believe we made it. Hopefully the audience got the message, saw this end-to-end journey from files into storage, into OneLake, into insights at the end. So really nice to be able to do it with you one more time. So thank you so much, everyone. I'm not sure if there are additional questions in the audience. I saw the YouTube chat and I saw a lot of engagement with the audience. So thank you about that. I saw also our moderators going through all those questions. And well, with that, we just finish. And reminder, stay tuned for this series, a new Data Day event coming very, very soon. So scan the QR code or aka.ms/datadays. Gaston, thank you again. See you all soon. Bye-bye.
See you, Javi.
Again to our speakers. This session is part of a series. To register for future shows and watch past episodes on demand, you can follow the link on the screen or in the chat. We're always looking to improve our sessions and your experience. If you have any feedback for us, we would love to hear what you have to say. You can find that link on the screen or in the chat. And we'll see you at the next one.